Hey guys, I just wanted to go over some tips on writing your research proposal, just give you a few observations and some steps for things that you can do to do your second assignment. So, I'm going to give you a few tips, things you can do, some steps that you can take to get ready to write your proposal. Then also, I'm going to tell you what needs to go into each section of the proposal and how to do it. And these are just some basically some bullet points. And just remember that is a fuller proposal guide that's now available for you under Unit Resources on Moodle. So let's just kind of start off with where we are in our journey. So we've written our first paper, and most of us have identified a really good topic. Where we need to develop our work is get a little bit better at exploring the academic literature. And then also we need to identify a research method that we're going to use, because of course what proposal is going to do is set you up to write your final project. So I'm just going to go through each one of those steps as you need to do them. Okay. So the first thing, preparation. Oh, fantastic. And there's a spelling mistake straight away. But nevertheless, I want you to do each of these things in this order. So I want you to go up the unit guide first, and I want you to read the assessment and also pay special attention to the rubric, because that tells you exactly what I'm expecting you to do. So that's in the unit guide, which you can access under the unit guide tab on Moodle. Then I need you to stay on Moodle, and I need you to go to the Unit Resources tab. And then there are 3 videos that you need to watch in their entirety. One is called Using Lit Reviews to Make Your Case Study More Interesting. The second is called Using Your Lit Review to Tell a Story. And the third is a video on finding a research method. And that tells you step by step what you need to do to find your scholarly readings and find your method. It shows you where you can find the resources online to help you do that. So you need to watch each one of those videos and lay it under the Unit Resources tab. Then the final thing you need to do is I've uploaded a PDF of a proposal guide, and you need to open that PDF and you need to read it. Okay, so you need to do each one of those things in that order. Okay. Then we get to the proposal itself, and your proposal has got 3 sections. And the first section is introducing your research question. And basically, what this is it's a reworking of your first assignment. So you will have received some feedback on how to improve your ideas. You need to incorporate that feedback, and you need to summarize that paper doing 2 things. Firstly, you need to say what your research question is, and secondly, you need to say why your research question is important. What's the significance of it? What will society learn about how media work from asking that question? Now, this is the test. Ultimately, being a student, you are tested for your knowledge. You are tested for your ability to do certain things, and employers expect you to be able to do those things. So the test here is you need to explain why your research question is important, and that's a matter for you to decide. If you don't know why your research question is important, then you haven't done enough work. You haven't done enough thinking. So either do more work and more thinking, or choose a research question where you do understand what the social importance is. So it's very easy. It's one of the two. Okay. So that's that first section. Now, the other thing is I've also, in what you will know by the time you do this, is that you will, I've attached word limits, so approximate word length guides to each section of this unit. So look at the unit guide for further details on that. The main part of this proposal is your literature review. And what you're doing here is you're taking your research question and identifying what scholars have said about this research question. So we'll know you'll have asked a research question that society is interested in, but what you're doing here is you're gathering information about what scholars have said about your issue. So I've given here the example of gaming. So we know that a lot of people worry about gaming because they think that gaming is somehow something that damages society. But if you look at research that scholars do on gaming, they argue that gaming is a far more complex activity that's about all kinds of things. It's about power, it's about companionship, it's about being creative, it's about kind of sharing a space with people, it's about forming relationships. And there are people do have negative experiences with gaming. So, for example, people think that gaming quite often is quite gendered in a way that isn't helpful. People think that the gaming industry is actually something that's quite difficult to break into for women, all of those sorts of things. But whenever they're talking about the negative aspects, features of gaming cultures, they talk about them in very broad cultural terms. So basically, if you were doing something on gaming, for example, what you would perhaps do is use scholarly literature to show that while society tends to talk about gaming in fairly monodimensional terms, is it good or is it bad? Research on gaming culture suggests that gaming is a really complex media industry and also cultural practice. And you would want to be mapping out those ideas, kind of really explaining to people why gaming is more complicated than you might think it is. By using academic ideas. And then the other thing that you will do in this section is you will identify the range of different ideas that people have used to analyze your topic. And then you'll be focusing in on one or two that are particularly relevant to your research question. And what you might also do is focus on the work of a particular author in doing that. But again, I explain how to go about doing that in those videos that I've asked you to look at before the tutorial. So I'm just giving you basically a map of what this section should cover. And then our third section is the method. Now, your procedure for going about selecting a method is pretty straightforward. You can do one of two things. In one of the videos, I will have shown you how to access Sage Research Methods online. And what I want you to do is to go into that resource and, in the way that I explain in the video, find a research method that you can use for your research question. Might be a content analysis, might be interviewing, might be gathering social media posts, might be any of those things. Doesn't really matter. But what you need to do is you need to find a Sage Methods entry on that particular method, explain the method, explain why it's relevant to your research. Why are you using this method? So don't just say, I'm going to use this method. Say, why are you using this method? What will it tell us? Why is it relevant to your research question? That's one thing you can do. Another option is you can basically replicate a method from one of the academic studies that you have chosen. So it might be that a particular study, you're using that to get kind of the concepts and the ideas, but you also think the method is really, really useful and you think it applies to your research question. So you're going to replicate it. That's there's nothing cheating about doing that. That's actually quite a common way that people go about methods, and it makes a lot of sense because you're saying I'm using this method because it's been proven to be a valuable method. So that's something you can do. But again, the important thing is explain your method, and that's basically that's what each section of the assignment and what you have to do. Now we're going to start practicing for that. One other thing that I'm going to ask, what I'm going to explain also, people have asked, am I allowed to use the studies that I've used in my first assignment as one of my minimum 10? Absolutely, 100%. It makes complete sense to take the ideas that you talked about in the first assignment and go deeper into them, go more in depth, explain them more, explain the subtleties. Perhaps use the studies that you used in the first assignment as a kind of a foundation for further exploration. So you're absolutely fine to do that. But what I want you to do before the tutorial is gather your resources. So I want you to find and save relevant studies from Communications and Mass Media Complete using the techniques that I've mapped out in those videos. I want you to find a method using the resources that I've shown in the videos. Then when you've gathered all of those materials, I want you just to have a quick read over the abstracts. Don't read the whole articles. Read the abstracts of the articles, the summaries that are at the beginning of those pieces, and just have a think about any questions you might have at this initial stage about how to turn your initial research question into a research project. And we're going to do that in the week beginning May the 11th in the tutorials, just to give you a head start on the assignment. Okay, so I'll see you in class.